Ah, yes. Turning good? More like turning this on its head. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Like we supposed in my What If Goku Stayed Evil video, the idea that a character changing sides or their destiny switching around from the conventional trend is a pretty enticing one. In fact, we have done that so many times on this channel that it's become not only a staple, it's also become a bit of a meme if I'm honest. So what if so-and-so turned good? Yeah, you know that one. Yep, that's what Masako would do. He likes turning people good. Well, how about we tweak that Goku video idea and suppose the idea of a character never turning good? Today's case is all going to be about Vegeta. I thought I'd throw a little bit of fan service in for you. You guys think I like to down on Vegeta? Let's hype him up a bit. But wait, Masako. Since when can you describe Vegeta as a good guy? Did he even ever turn good? Well, yeah, he did. It's safe to say that, save for the Majin Vegeta arc, that Vegeta now has had the back of the Z-Fighters since the time of the Android saga. I mean, it's been in his best interests. And established it all the way back on Namek when he and the good guys had a common enemy in the form of Frieza. After that, it really did become convenient for the Prince of All Saiyans to stick around the Earthlings because firstly, he had nowhere else to go, and secondly, the strongest guy he knew lived there, and thirdly, he quite liked Bulma. But most importantly, he needed to beat Kakarot and justify that the royal genetics made him the rightful Super Saiyan of legend. So now it begs the question, what if Vegeta never turned good? Supposing the prince never felt the desire to stick around on Earth, a switch in his mind failed to turn on, and he simply skipped out on the others. Now let's elaborate on that for a second. Vegeta only tolerated the Earthlings on Namek because they were useful in aiding his quest to become the legendary Super Saiyan. But unfortunately, as we know, that plan failed and he ended up being offed by Frieza. He was lucky to be alive again when he was restored to the land of the living by the others, but as far as he was concerned, the usefulness of the Earthlings, in this scenario, had run its course. The first opportunity he could take to leave this world, he would do so. But maybe it might go another way. You never know. That's what the whole point of this What If is. This is all about to investigate and evaluate. So stay tuned to find out what happens. But one thing we do know, Vegeta is not going to end up being the good guy here. Not even an anti-hero. We have to go back to after Vegeta has been bested by the likes of Goku on planet Earth. Vegeta vows to return and get his revenge after he's gotten the chance to recover and of course gain the ubiquitous Zenkai boost that every Saiyan acquires upon being injured in some significant way. Actually, it's never really been established how injured you have to be in order to get one of those boosts. Does it really take a lot of damage like a fair injury? Or does just simply, a paper cut grant you one? Food for thought there. But anyway, we're getting distracted. Upon recovering from his injuries, he is granted a reprieve by Lord Frieza after the intel that he supplied about Dragon Balls being a thing on planet Namek back when he was doing the thing on Earth. And as we know, Vegeta then goes there to do the deed and get the Dragon Balls out from under Frieza's nose. Like in the original, he has marked himself as a self-declared enemy of Frieza. He is no longer tolerating that guy. That bit doesn't change. He is still considering himself to be superior. And so, we get the times on Namek where Vegeta exhibited his evil nature. We have his offing of Qui and Dodoria cruelly, the elimination of an entire Namekian village for the sake of just one Dragon Ball, all the way up to, the time when Zarbon gives him an overwhelming whomping. And Vegeta is then taken back for interrogation, but then skedaddles with the Dragon Balls and flies away. Now, this is where things begin to differ. Vegeta still demands for his wish for immortality from the others to be granted, but this time, instead of just towing the line, he is even more insistent that they perform it first. Instead of going softly or talking about justice or mutual benefits, he literally just says, "If you do this, I will not end your lives today." Why the change? Well, something clicked in his mind when he was fighting Zarbon, when he was recovering in the medical facility for the second time, and when he got his own back. This new feeling of power, the second Zenkai in a matter of days, gave Vegeta the power to think that he was invincible. Yeah, the feeling that nobody could stop him now. I mean, only Frieza, but he failed to show his cowardly face yet, so he doesn't count. You see, Vegeta's sense of self-esteem has changed, always simply being even more aggressive and taking that deceit of Gohan stealing the Dragon Balls even more personally. For now though, he does put up with their requirements and uses their assistance, in stopping the Ginyu Force, and they are also complying with his desire to wish on the dragon. This time though, Vegeta keeps up the pressure all the time, reminding the Earthlings that they're lucky to be alive. And also, most importantly, he doesn't fall asleep. All of this victory has made his inclination to have a nap just go away. And you think that may be insignificant, but it's not. He's buzzed, and so the Earthlings have no choice but to make the wish now. They can't sneak the Dragon Balls outside of him and try and summon Porunga. They have to summon the dragon right outside, saving precious minutes. The first wish is indeed to grant Vegeta immortality, and it is accepted by the dragon. But hang on, Masako, this is too easy. I know! However, two factors do come into play, which I talked about before. First, Vegeta is more insistent about his demands, giving the Earthlings no quarter of breathing space to deny him, especially since Frieza requires as much support as they can get, and he did help them against the Ginyu Force earlier. And most importantly, he didn't take that blessed nap, saving precious time. After that, Vegeta can feel this power flow through his veins. The power of immortality. It's like he's had yet another Zenkai boost. Basically that one he got from Dende healing him later in the original arc, but only thanks to immortality giving him a welcoming rejuvenation of his bodily cells. In fact, it's even more effective. He's a whole new person. Immortality just refreshes your body for self-perpetuation. Now in the original, Vegeta's Dende Senkai boost pushed the Saiyan past 500,000. Now, it's closer to 750,000. Vegeta's body has been refreshed. After that, he doesn't care what the Earthlings do. He's off to go and find Frieza. Now free of Vegeta's badgering, Krillin and Gohan make the other two wishes in quick succession and bring Piccolo back to life and to Namek. In the nick of time too. Guru then passes, and just as the balls begin to spread out in the sky like they usually do, they then go out and fall to the ground. Krillin and Gohan spot this and breathe a sigh of relief, whereas Dende begins to cry. Guru is gone. No more Porunga. This Vegeta had better use his immortality wisely and end Frieza's reign. Oh, he will aim to do just that, but don't think that he's gone soft like in the original. Being immortal doesn't make him a good guy. Frieza has seen all of this go down from afar, and can also sense Vegeta's power coming towards him, thinking that the poor Saiyan must have gone mad, daring to actively find him. However, he plays along when they actually do meet up, and begins to fight the tyrant in mid-air. Frieza is taken aback by this sudden lack of formality and gumption, and also by the power that Vegeta is wielding. How did he get this strong? The two then fall to the ground, and Frieza is looking surprised. How? How did you do that? What did you... Oh, you used the Dragon Balls, didn't you? Where's the dragon, Vegeta? Answer me! It's gone. All tapped out. No immortality for you, Frieza. It doesn't matter now anyway. I'm going to enjoy ending your miserable life just as much as living for eternity. Goodbye, Vegeta! Frieza aims a blast at Vegeta, and the Saiyan doesn't even try to dodge it, silently hoping that the wish worked and he did get immortality. There is an explosion, and Frieza thinks that he has done the deed, but he hasn't. Inside the cloud, he can hear a Saiyan laughing. Vegeta's armor is scorched and his face is mangled, but he feels no pain. His body begins to mend itself, and with the addition of Zenkai to immortality, every time he gets struck, it only makes him stronger. How do I know this? Well, I don't. We've never had an immortal Saiyan before. We've seen how Zamasu, when he was immortal, is able to repair his body quite quickly every time he's hurt, so the same probably would happen to Vegeta, because that's how immortality works, and we know Saiyans recover both in body and in power with each injury, so the two are actually stacking. Vegeta is now officially OP. Frieza gets it now. Well played, monkey. So you became immortal. You're still no match for my ultimate power, though. Allow me to bless you with seeing my new transformations to a new level of power. We see Frieza go through his second, third, and fourth forms, but with every single time that he does this, Vegeta just takes whatever attacks Frieza throws at him, knowing that each time Frieza retaliates, he is just making the Saiyan all the more powerful. Now you would think that Frieza would find this out and not try and attack him directly, but no. Frieza isn't getting the memo, and is getting all the more frustrated. In his final form, Frieza goes all out, and tries to land a death ball straight in Vegeta's smug little face. Sure, it eviscerates his body, but he isn't offed. Slowly but surely, Vegeta recovers, laughing as he does so.
You don't get it, do you? You cannot end me! I am eternal. The Saiyans will never become extinct now, thanks to my new power. It's my turn now, Frieza.
After 5 or 6 Zenkai boosts seemingly, that last one being particularly effective, Vegeta powers up and goes on the charge. It's hard to estimate his power right now, but you know, I imagine that it's comparable to Frieza, who is now at half his full power, and he's about to gain backup. After the whole thing with the Ginyu Force, Goku had been recovering. He's now recovered from his injuries after the whole Ginyu affair, and is wide awake, and reeling from the powers that he can sense. Gohan, Krillin, and Dende haven't moved from where they were, all terrified that they might get stuck in the middle of everything, and Piccolo is there now too, and having fused with Nail, but it turns out his services aren't really required.
Huh, so Vegeta's as strong as Frieza now? How about that?
He goes to join the others to make heads or tails of the situation. When he gets there, Kami has revived and has begun to gather the Earth Dragon Balls with the help of Mr. Popo in case their assistance is needed on Namek. Goku, meanwhile, has powered up and joined the fray. This stops the fight there and then with the addition of another challenger, and Vegeta is almost jubilant to see Kakarot.
How good, Kakarot! You finally decided to show yourself. Say, do you want to join me in offing our race's greatest enemy?
Kakarot is unaware that Vegeta is now immortal, and so agrees to join his side, and together, the two of them begin to pound on Frieza, with Vegeta now becoming good Goku, he's the stronger of the two. Frieza is getting swarmed by this, and then decides to do what he did with Goku as a Super Saiyan and tries to blow up the planet, failing, and then now, the time is really against them. 5 minutes exactly, yes exactly 5 minutes, to end Frieza. Vegeta tells Kakarot to get his head in the game, and they power up, with Goku going Kaioken times 20. Frieza asks to go to full power like before, and Vegeta, as you know he likes to do that, lets him power up, knowing that this is pointless. Frieza does so, and the battle continues. Indeed, Vegeta notices that Frieza is stronger now, but he's getting more and more tired by the second. All Vegeta has to do is just wait out the clock, and then, oh, would you look at that? Frieza's getting tired. He is winded, and Vegeta has now grown weary of this game. Frieza is just no fun anymore. He simply sets Frieza down and says,
"You have ruined the hopes of our race, freak. I aim to rebuild a new world, though. A new Vegeta. One that will be free. Free from the likes of you, and able to forge their own destiny and rule the galaxy, rising from the ashes of your empire. Goodbye, Frieza."
Vegeta then blasts himself and Frieza in a fireball. Goku almost gets caught in it and just thinks that Vegeta's gone mad, but when the dust clears, all that's left is Vegeta, who is recovering from his wounds and gained yet another Zenkai boost. Goku talks to King Kai and asks what's going to happen now. The king doesn't know. It's all up to Vegeta what he does. Timidly, Goku walks up to Vegeta and congratulates him for winning, but then gets met with a glare.
"Kakarot, join me as I rebuild our race. You are indeed strong, so you and your friends can be my major lieutenants in my mission to conquer the galaxy. What say you, Kakarot?"
But instead of being happy now, Kakarot changes his tune and says he can't do that. Earth is his home, nothing has changed.
"I see. Well,"
Vegeta raises his hand.
"there is no need for you."
He blasts Goku, and Goku has no chance to dodge, and he is vaporized. Everyone can feel this, and dreads what is about to happen. Piccolo is very much regretting this situation. If he had to choose between here and still being on King Kai's planet, he would only just slightly take the Kai's world. Meanwhile, Kami can sense all of this going on, and since the Earth Dragon Balls are now restored, Shenron is summoned because they got them earlier, and they wish for all of the beings on Namek to be transported back to Earth immediately. The dragon is able to do this, and in the blink of an eye, everybody finds themselves away from the lava pits of the very fast crumbling Namek, and instead in the middle of a lush field back on their homeworld. Well, there is one exception here. The gang look around and are relieved to see that somehow, for some reason, Vegeta isn't here. Kami informs Piccolo that Vegeta refused to be part of the wish that Shenron made, electing to stay on the planet. Piccolo curses under his breath.
Is he really that delusional that he thinks he can take on an exploding planet?
Vegeta is in a state of ecstasy right now. He has defeated Frieza, he has bested Kakarot with just one blast, and now he had become the strongest being in the galaxy. Nobody could stop him, not even this fading world in its last gasp. He raises his hands and shouts to nobody other than the world around him.
"To your worst, Namek! I will prevail. There will be legends of me. Yes, the Saiyan who endured a dying planet. You will be forgotten, but I know. Vegeta shall live!"
King Kai is severely unnerved at this display of power and desperation, and as the planet does indeed its worst, nobody can sense Vegeta's ki in the midst of all of this fire and brimstone. That is until a few minutes later shows up. The prince did survive the explosion. He looks worse for wear, but he is slowly recovering. He can breathe in space somewhat as a byproduct of all of this, although it's not ideal since his body is having to constantly compensate for this. It's not as neat or perfect as Frieza's ability to breathe in space. But once he's gotten his strength back up to where his body is mostly dealing with the situation okay, Vegeta calmly sighs and decides what his first action will be. He powers up and flies off in the direction of a nearby planet in which he can find a vessel to take him forward. So, that was it then. Well, not quite. The Namekians are very somber right now. Their elder was gone, and so they need to elect a new one, and that falls to Mori. But sadly, in this situation, they didn't even get to say goodbye to Guru. There wasn't enough time to do so, and neither did Guru get the chance to have a reprieve. No, the Namekians also feel down for the fact that it was their Dragon Balls that caused this new tyrant to rise in the place of an old one that now seems endlessly stronger than them. The Earthlings are not sure what to do either. They could try and use their own Dragon Balls to wish away Vegeta's immortality, perhaps, but Kami then steps in saying that that would probably be beyond Shenron's power, as it was enacted by a stronger set of Dragon Balls in that of Guru's, and the Dragon Purunga. If they wanted to try and pull that kind of a stunt, then they would need to wait for the new set of Dragon Balls to be restored, Purunga to be revived, and then mastered. But then again, would they really want to even try that? It sounds like if they did, it would end badly for them, as he would still be much stronger than them anyway, and the Earth would be undoubtedly having to deal with a very similar fate to that of Namek just now. No. The first thing they need to do at this moment is to bring back Goku and get the Namekians a new home planet. I mean, yeah, that and bringing back Yamcha, Tenshinhan, and Chaozu, I mean, the original mission, that can't be forgotten. 4 months later, the Namekian set of Dragon Balls have now been fully restored, and the newly minted Purunga, powered up by Mori, is ready to do the deed. So far, these wishes seem kinda straightforward. The first wish is to bring back Goku, and to bring him here, which indeed happens. A bewildered Goku lands on the ground right underneath Purunga, having the last thing happen to him that he remembers be getting a blast to the face by who he thought was a new ally. Naturally, he had spent some time training in the other world, yeah, but it wasn't a whole lot in comparison to the lengths that we have seen him do in the original story. Next up, the Namekians wish for a new Namek to be made in the furthest of regions of space, where nobody could find them ever again. Well, nobody that they would want to not find them, and they can live out the rest of their lives in peace. The final wish is then, of course, used to transport them to this world when it's ready. The Namekians thank the Earthlings for their hospitality, and they all say that if they need their assistance in the future, they are more than happy to do so. Their dragon is their dragon too, and vice versa. Mori and his clan disappear from view, and just as they and the dragon shoot upwards into space, another visitor descends in his own personal craft. It's Vegeta. The prince exits his craft and gazes upon the gang who look terrified, Goku looking positively stern.
"Ah, Kakarot! Nice to see you up and about. I hope that your more roundabout way of being revived was a painless experience. Are you still standing by your decision to reject my previous offer? Not that it's valid anymore anyway. I don't need you. What I do need, though, is for all of you to shut up and hear my words."
As part of this speech, Vegeta proclaims that he had indeed survived the explosion of Namek. He's wanting to exchange and pass on the legend naturally, and transported his way to a nearby planet where he was able to fully recover and then mount an attack on King Cold's homeworld, Frieza Planet 1. From there, he was able to take command of the entire Frieza Cold Force and utterly liquidate the former Empire's assets, and then start anew as his own ruler of his own kingdom. Piccolo is actually very surprised why he wouldn't just take the throne and rule what was already there. It just sounds like a bit of a waste. But Vegeta is insulted by this.
You think I want the scraps of Frieza's leftovers? You think I'd be satisfied with taking the clothes off of Frieza's back and claiming them as my own? If you think that, then you're a fool.
In the time between then and now, Vegeta had managed to find a planet with similar conditions to that of the old planet Vegeta from the Frieza archives and set up shop there. Yeah, he will give it that, he did use some facilities. He would then contact the planets in the same archives and tell them to send their strongest remaining warriors to that new planet Vegeta. That was the only thing that he wanted from these planets. Just their strongest warriors in order to establish a new empire, and so far it was looking good for this new Vegeta. People appreciated the fact that he wasn't as maniacal as Frieza. But Goku steps up. And let me guess, you want to take us too? Well, nothing's changed. I ain't going nowhere, and neither are my friends. But Vegeta shakes his head.
Relax, Kakarot. I didn't for 1 second think that any of you goody-goodies would sign up. What I did to you on Namek was just for my own personal enjoyment.
Then why are you here?
I came to give you this warning. Aside from those Namekians and you lot, there are no other ways of wishing my immortality away. I could tell they are alive. I saw a flash of light leave as I got here. Maybe you could pass on this message to them when you've got the time. If you even think about wishing to remove my immortality, then I will unleash the wrath of not just myself, but the entirety of my empire down on your miserable dung heap that you call home.
Krillin mumbles, that doesn't sound good.
On the contrary, this is as good as it can get for you. I don't want anything else from this world other than the assurance that you will not interfere in my affairs. Do you understand?
The silence is thick here.
I'll take that as a yes. Now, if you will excuse me, the stench here is unbearable. Remember what I said. Don't make any sudden wishes, or else...
Vegeta fires a ki blast, and it blows up a small pile of boulders.
That, but bigger.
The craft lifts up from the ground and disappears from view. The gang are left shaken, but at least glad that nobody passed or were taken. Goku looks up and says nothing still. This is rare to see though, a stoic Goku. However, the gang need his guidance about what to do next. Do they just listen to this guy's orders? Goku turns to them. No way! I'm not backing down from this challenge. We train. We train harder than ever. And when we're strong enough, we take him down. The gang are left both horrified at the task at hand, but also admiring Goku's resolve in this moment of upheaval for the group. I mean, yes, they were all still together, but they were left with a very major hint to not get in the way. But Goku's right, they can't just give up and let Vegeta run away with the prize of being the strongest being in the galaxy. I mean, after all, Goku reckons that Vegeta wouldn't want them to sit on their butts anyway. He still wants a challenge. I mean, just a challenge where he holds all the good cards is all. Now the next question is, how does he repopulate the Saiyan race? Does he send out a signal to all the worlds around asking all remaining Saiyans possibly to return? Does he go back to Earth and order a wish on their Dragon Balls to wish everyone back? Because he's got them in the palm of his hands? But then again, he doesn't know the 1 year limitation of being offed on the Earth Balls before you say. Or does he just say to heck with it and have an empire of his own which contains all the strongest beings in the galaxies from whatever planet? Well, I mean, the first idea of sending out a signal can't hurt for the moment. When he returns to the newly minted planet Vegeta, he commands that a galactic-wide message be sent, stating that if any Saiyans were still alive, that they were to report to this planet, coordinates were enclosed naturally, and await further instructions as bestowed upon by King Vegeta IV. That would get the message across loud and clear. If any Saiyans worth their weight in space salt knew any better, they would not disobey a direct order from a direct descendant of their last king. I mean, after all, the name Vegeta itself was kingly enough anyway.
Now, let's get down to business.
Out in deep space, on a newly minted planet Vegeta, the new king of the Saiyan Empire rests atop of his throne, awaiting his summons from Saiyans across the galaxy, if indeed there are any left. He didn't expect there to be any in reality. It had been a couple of decades since the destruction of his original homeworld, and to be honest, if there were any of his kind off-world remaining, they would have either probably succumbed to Frieza forces picking them off one by one over the years, or they blended so much into their respective societies that they lived in that they would have forgotten their legacy, what it meant to be a Saiyan. They would have gotten soft. In any case, he did have some kind of army to order picked up from various planets within the galaxy, and so far, his word had been received more willingly than what Frieza said, the former Empire. All that Vegeta requested from these worlds were their strongest fighters, nothing more. You might recognise this trope from our What If Frieza saw Vegeta's potential. Well, I thought that would apply here as well, since Vegeta is not here to become a Frieza replacement. He just wants to have his own empire to rule over, and ensure that nothing kicks off on his watch. Like, he's sort of the galactic security force. Oh, Jaka's gonna have a field day with this one. If anything is going to go down in this galaxy, he will be the one to initiate it or halt it.
My king, we have picked up some kind of distress signal. It's pretty ancient, but it seems to correspond to a Saiyan craft.
This perks the king's interest. So far, the Saiyans that had arrived, this was more than he expected, but disappointed by the fact that they were pretty low-level dregs of society. The only ones of his kind that had managed to somehow survive the last few decades were either too old, too weak, or in some cases, hybrids, like that Gohan kid. Their power was uncertain at the moment, but Vegeta wasn't really relying on them at the moment for their purity.
What sort of craft is it? Hard to say, my liege. All we know is that it is on a planet on the far edge of the galaxy. It's a place called Vampa, my liege.
All he could remember of that planet was that it was a place not fit for purpose for the Frieza Empire due to the fact it was just so desolate upon discovery. Why would anyone willingly land there? And more importantly, would they still be alive? Either way, it was a distraction.
Very well. Prepare a transport ship. I wish to see these Saiyans up close and personal if they're still alive. My liege, Vampa is too dangerous for you to go. Allow us to go in your place.
The king gets up from his throne and walks to the grunt and scoffs.
You forget, nothing is too dangerous for me nowadays. I relish the peril.
He was pretty accurate about that. Since gaining immortality, the malaise that Frieza described in Super and the movie while he was in his own personal hell is starting to trickle into Vegeta's mind. He's bored. Not having any challenges to his life, not having the thrill of a good fight, was actually starting to get to him. It was getting him down. Perhaps these Saiyans, or whatever's left, if they're still alive, were hardy souls that could cope with Vampa's hostile environment, from what he could recall. Meanwhile, back on Earth, the Dragon team have been busy. There is also no future Trunks. What we do get, though, is future Gohan, but this time around, he is not expecting Frieza or anything like that. The gang sense his power arrive on the planet, and they then come out there to where he landed to investigate. This time around, the future man is trying to keep his cool, despite being in front of his father for the first time in what seems like forever. However, the welcome isn't as warm as he expected. Goku walks up to him and has not an ounce of warmth towards him. What brings you here? Are you part of Vegeta's empire? Checking in on us to see if we're behaving? Gohan is confused. What's he talking about? Oh, right, Vegeta's thing. It completely slipped his mind. Now you see, since Vegeta basically left Earth alone to its own devices, that prince had basically completely become background noise to them in comparison to the androids. You know, that particular menace the planet had to deal with? Vegeta didn't come to help or anything like that. I mean, there were attempts to try and contact him for assistance from Bulma, but none of them were actually heeded or read. No acknowledgement whatsoever. They were on their own, and so they forgot about him. What's the point of remembering someone that doesn't want to be remembered? After all this, Goku then realizes something. Wait, we've been training to stop Vegeta. These androids you speak of? Surely we would be strong to take them on, right? Gohan nods and says that is true. if Goku had still been alive. King Kai suggested going to a planet called Yardrat or something to focus his energy and get stronger in order to stop Vegeta's rise to power. King Kai didn't like the thought of the former prince ruling the galaxy himself. True, he wasn't as bad as Frieza or anything like that, but he had had enough of seeing nefarious people ruling over other people. It was time for consistent and widespread peace to be had in North Galaxy. As a result, Goku was guided by King Kai to Yardrat, learned spirit control, and of course instant transmission. But then contracted that heart illness and promptly succumbed to it. You're kidding me! After all this power I got, it all meant nothing? Gohan sadly nods and says that it was unfortunate, but there is a cure now, and if he takes it, he might survive, so there is no reason stopping him from still going to Yardrat, still getting those powers and all. So long as he just remembers to take the medicine, regardless whether it's great flavor or not. Oh, one last thing before I go. Have you transformed yet? Goku tilts his head. Transformed? You mean Kaioken? Gohan shakes his head, and promptly gathers his strength, powering up, and shouts to the skies. In one blinding golden flash, his hair has turned golden, and his eyes a shade of teal. He is a Super Saiyan. This blindsides everyone who had kept their distance. They could taste that. This is a Super Saiyan. I happened upon this power in the fight against the androids. Seeing all my friends and families falling down one by one in front of them, it was too much to bear. And then one day, during training, I just thought about them and I exploded. And this happened. It helped against the androids, though. I mean, it meant at least I could protect some people from them. Destroy them, though? No. Buy some time? Yeah. If you wish to stand any chance against the androids here, then this is something that you need to learn. Goku, you might want to teach this to your son. You did have a son, right? Goku nods and tilts his head back to the younger Gohan, standing in the crowd. Good. He'll pick it up in no time with your help. He then explains more to Goku about how Super Saiyan works, and is about to take his leave. Wait! Did Vegeta learn this too? I don't know, but if it helps your training or anything, sure, he did. With that, future Gohan departs for the future, and Goku is left more motivated than ever. A Super Saiyan. Wow! But first call, Yardrat. The ship finally descends on the yellow gaseous world of Vampa and comes to a rest in a clearing. Vegeta steps off of it and immediately is overwhelmed with the stench of the planet. Ugh! Perhaps Earth wasn't so bad upon reflection. Jeez. Vegeta concentrates his mind on trying to sense for any life forms on this world that possessed some modicum of intelligence. There were two powers here. Sure, one of them was slightly better than the average recruit that he'd recently received, but there was one that seemed very interesting. Inconsistent, all over the place, but sometimes, when he could think about it, it was pretty big. Sometimes it was very low though. It was certainly something to check out though. With a couple of guards to hand, he descends upon the powers, and sure enough, they were Saiyans. One is Paragus, and the other is Broly. Paragus, looking a little worse for wear, but still with his black hair, because unlike his movie interpretation, this was about 11 years or so before then, so he probably would still be younger and a little bit stronger, maybe in the 5,000 range. Paragus locks eyes on what he remembers as Prince Vegeta. He doesn't know what to say. He had been found. Rescue was assured, but why did it have to be the son of the man who had exiled him in the first place, as well as his son? For now though, let's just play along. At least for as long as it takes to get off the planet.
My prince, thank you for rescuing us. I am Paragus. I was a commander in your father's elite squadron.
Vegeta scans him up and down, and isn't all that impressed.
I see. However, it is King Vegeta now. Things have changed, Paragus. For a start, Frieza is no longer your ruler. I am.
Paragus is stunned. Frieza? Gone? Whilst this was good news, it was tempered with the realization that Vegeta had become the king. Great.
I sensed another power nearby. Who is that? That would be my son, your majesty. Broly, come here!
In a few seconds, a large young man bounded to his father's side, bound also by a silver collar.
This is Broly, your majesty. As you can see, he is quite the sprightly young lad.
The king scans this one as well, and is much more captivated with what he sees. Now in one place, he can sense that this power was much greater than any Saiyan that had been on planet Vegeta before it blew up. In fact, it was actually stronger in some ways than Kakarot. Progress had been made, finally.
It is your lucky day, you two. The Saiyan Empire has been rebuilt, and I need 2 Saiyans such as yourself to whip my army into shape. Your son here would make the perfect yardstick. Your Majesty, might I provide a word of warning? You see that collar around his neck? I am not here to take orders from you. If I want your son to lead my troops, then that is exactly what will happen. I know power when I see it, and he has that in spades. Now grab whatever you call belongings, and let's get out of here.
In not much time at all, Broly, Paragus, and Vegeta were making their way back to New Planet Vegeta, with the father of Broly looking very nervous, but also grateful to be soon having a shower for the first time in a couple of decades. Broly, meanwhile, was very confused with all this technology before him. It had been the first time he could recall being anywhere that wasn't tinted yellow. How weird. As that's going on, the words of future Gohan rang in Goku's mind. Yardrat. They had 3 years to get stronger, or else Earth would be consumed by a totally different beast. Now, Goku wasn't going to go alone or anything like that. He was taking some backup. Gohan and Piccolo were coming with him, whilst the rest of the Earthlings would be holding station on Earth in case Vegeta pulled anything funny. If it turns out to be worth it, then they can come and learn it later. With King Kai's navigation, the trio make their way to Yardrat, and after a couple of weeks, are greeted by Pibara. For the next several months, the 3 of them meditate and focus their energies. Now, Goku is able to do this in the 5 months as stated in the manga, and Gohan isn't that far behind, but one person excels at this, and it's Piccolo. In just 1 month, Piccolo has completed his portion of meditation, and Pibara is amazed.
My child, how are you able to concentrate so well?
Piccolo looks a little abashed by this.
Meditation is sort of my principal means of training. It just comes naturally to me. Well, it stood you in good stead. Now, come. As your friends continue their meditation, let's get on with the next phase of your training.
For weeks, their days were spent with meditation atop tall poles to try and focus their energies into concentrating what they already had, the benchmark of Yardratian training. When Gohan asked one night Pibara about Super Saiyan and unlocking it potentially, the elder nodded and told them not to worry about that for the time being.
I am sure that you will discover that power in the fullness of time on your own after your time here is done. But if it is anything like a typical boost in power, training your regular forms to be stronger will surely be more useful to you in the long run, and even increase the gains this power may have when you do find it.
Gohan thinks for a moment and then beams.
Of course! That's very clever, Master Pibara! You got that, Dad?
When it comes to maths, Goku isn't the best, but in terms of power and fighting, yeah, he's got that. They choose not to worry about Super Saiyan for the moment and go back to their meditation. After just over a month of this, Piccolo has completed his meditation training and tapped into the spirit control threshold to very good effect. Pibara was astounded.
My, Namekians sure are something special.
Piccolo shrugs off this praise, stating that it's what he does on a daily basis anyway, meditating. This was just another level of that, is all. While the other 3 continue, Piccolo moves on to learning the instant transmission technique, that portion of training, which he aces quickly, keen to use the other hand instead of the usual one because that's a special beam cannon and you don't want to mix the 2 up. And he chose the art of healing to focus on next.
It means that we don't have to rely on that Dende kid. He doesn't have to be dragged into our battles anymore.
Back on New Planet Vegeta, as the Yardrat stuff was going on, Vegeta was overseeing the arrival of Saiyans who had heeded his message that had managed to survive the original world's demise. He wasn't that impressed with the recruitment drive. Why was this? Well, naturally, since the cataclysm happened decades ago, most of the Saiyans' presents were either too old to fight, their hair had greyed and their bodies were getting frail, or they were approaching it. Their usefulness measured in several months or a few years rather than decades. Also, there were only 2 or 3 female Saiyans present, when they weren't exactly that strong in Vegeta's eyes, which made the mission to repopulate the Saiyans a little tricky. If only the original Tuffle-derived equipment they had on planet Vegeta was intact, that would have helped. When asked if similar tech could be made from the remains of Frieza's empire, the task proved incredibly difficult and costly and would take a long time. As for Broly, he was by far the most impressive Saiyan addition to his forces that he had found, but his mindset was proving rather challenging.
Paragus, Why is your son not up to speed yet?
The elder Saiyan had tried to explain that Broly was quite temperamental, something he'd been trying to tell the king for many moons, and really shouldn't have been flung into such a high role so soon.
Perhaps this was a little hasty, my liege. Permit me to take over his duties for the time being. I have experience in this field. Just until he's learnt how to actually— Do not tell me what to do! I've had enough of being told what to do from Frieza. You are in no place to order me around. Your son is the strongest example of Saiyanhood going. Apart from myself, of course. If my battalions are to defend this galaxy with any chance of efficacy, then Broly, and only Broly, will do.
Their conversation is interrupted when a message comes from Central Control that a ship had headed from Earth out into space. It had been spotted passing a nearby Vegeta waypoint. This catches the king's attention.
Interesting. What tempts them to venture away from their little cot? Broly! This should be easy for you to prove yourself. Why don't you head back to that Earth and see what they're up to? But, Vegeta, sending Broly out on his— What did I just say? Hold your tongue, Paragus, or else I will remove it.
So with that, Broly is sent out on his own to investigate the Dragon Team on Earth. It will take several months for him to get there, but that's no issue for the Saiyan pod, which has been refined considerably since its original use case in the Frieza Force. Vegeta actually liked these pods, certainly found its uses for solo missions.
Do you see, Paragus? He can go into stasis. He won't be of harm to anyone.
Well, anyone that we like and heeds the rules. Paragus is still uncertain about this, and in the cover of darkness, he chooses to steal a pod and heads off in pursuit of his son. On Yardrat, months have passed and all the gang have finished their spirit control training, learnt instant transmission, and then started to choose their respective fields. Goku, Gohan, and Krillin had all chosen to focus on the same thing, making full-on copies of themselves to further enhance their training, and Krillin had the upper hand of having experience from Triform back in the day. They could make 2 full copies of themselves reliably, and as a result, their after-hours training yielded better gains. After a year on Yardrat, the gang felt that they'd had enough to carry on training at home, and bringing the other members of the Dragon Team up to speed. Pabara waves them goodbye and they head home in the ship. Their transmission power is still a little iffy this far away from home, and also the powers on Earth, no offense Yamcha, weren't high enough to reliably pinpoint. When the pod was about to land on Earth, Vegeta got a ping stating that 2 pods were about to enter Sol 3's system. Wait, 2? He got the call sign for the second pod, the one he didn't recognize, and then requested Paragus to report to the bridge. No response from his quarters. Of course. He hadn't been all that surprised, but then again, Vegeta wasn't all that bothered what that fool got up to, since he had no role in authority, and his underlings were told to ignore any of Paragus' ramblings on pain of serious reprimand. The only reason he was being kept around was because Broly. But this now obviously proved to be a big mistake.
That fool! How dare he get in my way!
The king then decides to go after Paragus himself, to make an example for him, for anyone who would dare defy his orders. Nobody had fortunately done so yet, and so this powerful example will doubly assure those who are even thinking of going against him. Ooh, slippery slopes, cheats. Who are you sounding like right now? He orders his personal craft out, which had been kitted out with an FTL drive, a prototype from the Frieza days refined into a craft only for the king, and headed off for Earth. Oh, it's all kicking off again. The first to arrive was, of course, Broly. He landed on Earth with a mighty crash, and when the Saiyan had been woken from his slumber, the likes of Ten Shinhan and Yamcha, along with Chaozu, tentatively come to meet this being. From a distance. It wasn't Vegeta though, but it was Saiyan. But not Goku. When the hatch opened, Broly stepped out and looked utterly confused as to what to do next. All he had been told to do by the king was observe and see what these people were up to. Well, I mean, so far everything's okay. So far, he couldn't even tell anything was going on, even with the ability to sense energy that had been taught by Vegeta personally. I mean, since he was meant to be leading the generals of his squads, it would make sense for him to know it. When the trio of Earth got to the location, they were nervous. This guy hadn't done anything yet, despite his pretty noteworthy power. And yes, his power was still around about 200,000 or so. He hadn't gone full ape yet. But that was enough to give the group pause for thought. He could be suppressing this power. Ten Shinhan bravely steps forward and begins to find out what Broly is doing here. But remember, the Triclops isn't exactly tactful.
What brings you here, Saiyan? We haven't done anything to harm your boss. Leave us alone. My name is Broly, Three-Eyed Man. I'm here to check in on you, to see if you're up to anything suspicious, as is the king's orders. Can you take me to Son Goku? Goku's not here. He will be back soon, though. We've had other things to worry about instead of Vegeta. Other things? Like what? That's none of your business, Saiyan. Broly was starting to get ticked off with this guy's nerve. I told you, my name is Broly. His power was rising slightly, and Yamcha could spot this and frantically rushed in to calm him down. Hey, Broly! Yes, Broly! Your name's, Broly, yeah. Listen, forgive my buddy here. He's not exactly the most tactful person out there. Sorry, Broly. He nudges Ten Shinhan and whispers to him to not anger this guy, as doing so makes his power go up. But yeah, Broly, he is right though. We got a warning about these two evil robots that will attack here in a couple of years' time. We've been training for their arrival, as have Goku and the others. We don't plan on getting in Vegeta's way at all, so you can let him know that we don't want to mess with his plans. You dig? Yamcha is sweating buckets at this, hoping this plan will work, and Broly nods and accepts his reasoning. Thank you for being honest with me, Earthling. Name's Yamcha! He shakes Broly by the hand, and Ten Shinhan is stunned with how brave Yamcha is being right now. He finds out later on that Yamcha hadn't been more scared in his entire life than right now. But what choice did he have? If he hadn't have stepped in, Ten Shinhan might have caused an eruption that they couldn't hold back because Goku wasn't there. And by the time he did arrive, and as well as the others, it might be too late. The androids wouldn't have anybody to defeat. In Yamcha's care, Broly is introduced to the rest of the gang, and his docile nature, when not being angered or stressed, is welcomed, with Bulma saying that he's far nicer than Vegeta. With no Vegeta around to scold him, Broly actually laughs for the first time in years. Yes, King Vegeta is quite mean. Broly doesn't want to lead other people, but the king wants it that way. To rebuild the Saiyan race because I'm strong.
Hey, you don't have to listen to that bozo. You could stay here,
She says, and the gang look at Bulma with concern.
Oh, come on. Vegeta won't care if one guy doesn't come back. And after all the training our boys have been doing, we can send him packing if he decides to show up. And you, mister, can relax for once.
Broly smiles, but his expression is tinged with nervousness. If you say so, Bulma. Meanwhile, another pod crash lands nearby Broly's craft, and out steps Paragus who, without the ability to sense energy, scours the planet for his boy. Vegeta, however, is approaching fast. The quartet on the gravity ship can sense this as well, and are getting worried. What is Vegeta doing here? Goku then notices that they are close enough to transmit to Earth in case they are needed. They set the ship onto autopilot and head back to Earth, locking onto Ten Shinhan's energy, and are then informed about Broly. In turn, the four tell them the bad news. Vegeta is on his way. The gang are left utterly bewildered. Vegeta's coming? Why? We didn't do anything! Exclaimed Yamcha. Krillin calmed the group down, saying they are sure that they wouldn't have done anything rash to upset their king. I get you, Yamcha, but the fact is, he's coming. Whatever happened, we gotta be ready in case he loses his temper. Meanwhile, Broly was listening to the group discuss this situation, and had been trying to suggest something of his own, or maybe try and give a reason as to why Vegeta might be heading here, but he was being constantly interrupted. Finally, he had had enough waiting around, and let out a roar that shut everybody up, so he could speak. I apologize, but you were being very rude in not letting me speak. The gang quickly say sorry as Broly begins. Like I told Yamcha when I got here, I was sent to this planet to check up on you. A ship was detected nearby our homeworld, and it made Vegeta panic. Goku clocks on that that was their ship heading for Yardrat probably.
Man, we should have been more careful, huh?
It's alright, Goku. You weren't to know. The king has beacons everywhere. Since I haven't come back or reported to him in a while, he might think I'm either hurt or being influenced by someone. Ten Shinhan mutters. That second idea isn't that far off. Way to go, Yamcha. I told you talking to him was a bad idea. Yamcha is looking daggers at the Triclops, but Gohan tells everyone to be quiet and to let Broly finish. The only way we can stop Vegeta is for me to report back to him and say everything is fine. Can you do that? Asks Bulma. Well, I can. I just need to get back to my pod. With that, the gang head to where Broly's pod remote was guiding them. After an hour of flying, the group descended upon the craft. As Broly was looking at the pod, he He was looking quite morose.
What's up, Broly?
Asked Gohan. Honestly, muttered Broly, I wish Vegeta wasn't this quick to anger. This place is so nice. It would be a shame to have it destroyed. Yamcha thinks for a moment. Wait, wish? That reminds me! Bulma! Why don't we wish his immortality away? The gang are left dry-mouthed with apprehension.
I hate to burst your bubble, Yamcha, said the stoic Piccolo. But Vegeta said if we did that, he would unleash his entire empire upon us. You needn't worry about that,
shouted an oldish voice. The group then turned around and spotted what looked like a Saiyan with a one-eyed scar. Father! Shouted Broly. It was Paragus.
I didn't expect you to have met the natives, Broly. Glad to see you are all right, despite the sudden dispatchment. But yes, if you're all scared about Vegeta's empire raining down on your parade, then you should think again.
He had a massive smirk upon his face. Goku was suspicious, though.
How do we know that you're not another plant?
Paragus let out a coarse bark of a laugh.
Ha! As if I would listen to that diminutive despot after how he's treated my boy. I wish he would have just left us where he found us. Listening to the inane cawing of massive insects is far more entertaining than his constant jabbering.
He then explains to the group that his empire was great in number of Vegetas, but, much like the Frieza Force, the powers of such forces individually were relatively small, and the count of Saiyans left alive, actual Saiyans, were very low.
Most of the Saiyans remaining are older than I, or had grown soft after years of hiding and living cushier lives in exile. They are not fighters, nor do they possess the will to rekindle said fighting spirit. Vegeta's influence is built around convenience, not loyalty. He offers freedom in exchange for their best fighters. Take away the top dog, and those fighters will just go home. So whatever it is you're planning, pay no mind to the maniac's ramblings,
proclaimed Paragus, loving this feeling of superiority, holding the cards.
All I want is for my son and I to be free, and for us to choose where we call home. This place already seems well suited to our tastes, from the little I've seen of it.
Broly then happily agreed. This place is perfect, Father. The air is clean, the people are nice, and it's so out of the way of anything that we know of, nobody would dare come for us. The Dragon team nervously tugged their figurative collars. Broly wasn't aware of the upcoming android threat properly, now was he? But it was settled for the moment. They would give this a shot. Bulma, together with Tenshinhan and Yamcha, set about to gather the Dragon Balls as fast as they could, as Broly reported into Vegeta the situation, hoping this would be enough to make him go away. My liege, this is Broly. Come in. There was a pause before a crackle of static, and the familiar sound of Vegeta echoed through the communicator.
About time you got back to me. What's going on down there?
Nothing, sire. The Earthlings are going about their business. As for that ship you heard, they were training on Yardrat.
Yardrat. So I was right.
They don't wish to test your might, sire. They remember your warning. So you can turn around now, go back. All is well. A pause, before a low, hushed tone from the king sputtered, as if he was whispering to Broly.
Is your father there with you?
Broly's eyes widen. How did he know about Paragus? My father?
If this is you playing dumb, then you are either a bad actor or mightily stupid. We detected your father heading to Earth not long after you. He should be there by now. I guess he was supposed to try and rescue you or something. That is why I can no longer go back. This is my personal mission to retrieve him. And if he dare resist me, then let's hope it doesn't come to that.
The crackle ceases, and the line is dead. Vegeta was still coming. Damn it! Cursed Broly, his face looking pained, sparks flying from his fist. I can't let him hurt Father! Paragus, who had been listening in quietly, looked very worried. He was most likely going to die. As the attempts to soothe Vegeta's men's brow failed, the group had successfully gathered the Dragon Balls and summoned Shenron to wish for Vegeta's immortality to be removed. Expecting Shenron to be able to easily do this like he's done before, their faces fell considerably when it became clear that that wasn't going to be so easy.
That is beyond my power.
Huh? But how? You granted immortality before. Why not now?
The wish for immortality was granted by a dragon more powerful than I. Thusly, it is beyond my power.
Of course. Purunga. Without a moment to lose, Tenshinhan barked to Chiaotzu to use his telepathy to warn Goku about the issue.
But Tien, I don't know whether I have enough energy to speak that far.
You got to try, Chiaotzu. Surely our time with King Kai has provided some gains. Do it!
With nervous tension, Chiaotzu summoned all the energy he could muster and shouted to Goku's ki that the Dragon Balls wouldn't work. Miles away, Goku could hear a faint shouting in his ears. He hushed the group, trying to focus, but he couldn't quite hear what it was saying. It was mumbling to him, back at Shenron. Yamcha then said to maybe try Piccolo. His ears were more sensitive, and his mind was also more receptive to telepathy, since he and Kami talked all the time, he thought. Panting like crazy, Chiaotzu tried again, with Piccolo. And this time, it worked. The Namekian heard it loud and clear.
Guys, we got some bad news. Chiaotzu says Shenron will grant the wish. We need to use the Namekian Dragon Balls instead. Damn it.
Right. I gotta go to New Namek then. Krillin then exclaimed as Goku was preparing to use instant transmission. But Goku! We don't know whether our technique will work this far out! You might end up in the middle of nowhere and can't get back! Then what will we do? We got to try, Krillin! With that, Goku disappeared, having locked onto the Elder Mori's ki, having been informed by the Elder prior to them leaving before about the general area of where to look for New Namek. He had had to make some hops and skips along the way, but Goku did arrive at New Namek and asked the Namekians to summon Purunga and wish away Vegeta's immortality. But they too were nervous.
But Goku, exclaimed Mori, Vegeta explicitly warned us to not do that, or else we would be destroyed.
I know, he warned us too, but I got the feeling we're strong enough to take him down now. He's not trained much since he become king, I think. I bet he's gotten cocky. Please be quick with the dragon, guys. Thank you.
With that, Goku quickly made the hop, skip, and jump back to Earth. However, we still had the wish on Shenron to make. With the dragon waiting, Yamcha was thinking of an alternative solution. Perhaps, maybe, if Vegeta got a taste of his own medicine, then... yeah.
Dragon! I wish for Goku to be made immortal!
The dragon's eyes glowed red, and then dimmed.
That cannot be done. The one called Goku does not wish for immortality.
Yamcha's eyes widened. Seriously? Why wouldn't Goku want immortality? Thinking quickly, he decided to ask for immortality himself.
Are you crazy? What a waste of a wish.
Listen, babe, I gotta try. Once this is all done, I'll wish it away again. I promise.
You better. There is no way I'm going to grow old whilst you swan about not aging a day.
Yamcha gulped, and the wish was granted. He could feel his body rejuvenating constantly. He never felt this good ever before. He felt great. Meanwhile, Goku arrived back on the scene and was very ambivalent.
Which one of you guys wanted to give me immortality?
He asked with a slightly serious expression. The group looked confused. Well, nobody had.
I appreciate the gesture, guys, but I don't want something like that given to me. I'm not like Vegeta. I'd rather earn stuff like that instead of being given handouts for the sake of it, out of pity. Besides, if our plan works, we won't need it.
His eyes narrowed though, and he looked up to the sky.
He's on his way here. He's close. I hope Mori and the others can get it done in time.
Minutes later, a crash on the surface of the earth sent up clouds of dirt and made the ground around our team shake. Then, there was an eerie silence before a hiss of a hatch opened, and out stepped a cool but otherwise cruel looking King Vegeta. For a while, he didn't speak. He just walked towards the group, scoping out the area around them. He couldn't sense anyone trying to jump him lying in wait. All he could sense and see were Kakarot, the Earthlings, Broly, and
Paragus! I'm glad to see you're not hiding from me like a coward. Now state your business here. I already told you not to get in my way with your son. Your actions not only imply issues with my plan, but also imply your lack of faith in your own flesh and blood.
Broly, who Vegeta expected to be hurt by this remark, remained steadfast and unmoved. Paragus stood firm too, despite the immense power gap between them.
Lack of faith? Oh, Vegeta, that couldn't be farther from the truth. I have every faith in my boy. He is the strongest Saiyan I have ever seen. No, the strongest being I've seen in my entire life. is far more worthy of his power than you ever will be. If the rumors are true also, then at least my boy didn't have to beg for this power, unlike...
Vegeta immediately shot a blast at Paragus in anger, but Goku shot forward, thanks to the spirit control training he had, and deflected the beam, this taking out a nearby mountain range. Goku felt the power though, but wow, this power was this huge without Super Saiyan? Oh, well, okay. Well, when is he going to use that? Oh, guys, you wait, he never learnt it, but like future Gohan said, let's just assume that he had. We haven't done anything, Vegeta. Our training concerns a being that has nothing to do with you. For the last time, we're keeping up our end of the bargain, so you can get off our planet and leave us alone. Vegeta wagged his finger after a little chuckle.
I'm sorry, Kakarot, but I'm afraid I can't do that.
His finger then points to Paragus.
Thanks to your one-eyed fiend here, your promise is moot. Earth has once again come into my view, and that's what I didn't want to happen. It got in my way, and so...
Vegeta projected an energy blast from his finger.
You forfeit my goodwill.
Piccolo then lets out a laugh, which throws Vegeta off his balance.
Ha! If only you could see yourself right now. The way you're acting like him. Like who, Namekian? Frieza. Everything you're doing right now is right out of his playbook. You've become everything you've ever hated.
Vegeta was left speechless. He was right. But in that moment, Goku took his opportunity and landed the first blow, hoping that his friends back on Namek had done their thing. With Goku having landed the first blow, Vegeta's position was crystallized. He had gone too far now to go back. There was no going back. He had to finish what he had started, and this planet had to be extinguished for his empire to truly thrive. No more distractions. But that would come in good time. With his immortality, he actually could wear these clowns down, and then see their faces as their home was ripped from underneath them. Oh, that would be far more satisfying and worthwhile instead of just blowing them out outright after such a long journey too.
I let you have that, Kakarot, but I'm afraid I have to tell you that left no mark on me. You used up your free pass, and now I will show you all my true power.
Vegeta powered up, and up, and up, but no sign of golden hair emerged. Not even golden sparks. It seemed like the Emperor hadn't discovered Super Saiyan. Not discovering it through accident or through theorizing. Not at all. Or was this a bluff? They wouldn't put it past Vegeta to do this though, to give them false hope. That they stood a chance, in fact, and then just take it away from them when he felt like it. The group were left feeling apprehensive. Piccolo searched Vegeta's energy, trying to see if he was indeed holding back, but that would take a while. However, a sudden power came about which threw him and everyone else off for the time being. Yamcha had arrived, and he was looking surprisingly confident. Like, he wasn't in the least bit scared of the fact that Emperor Vegeta the Madman was right here, and he was throwing himself into the direct line of sight of the Emperor.
Well, if it isn't Vegeta, what brings you here, my liege?
Vegeta scoffed at the sight of Yamcha.
Ha! What's with all the bravado, human? The last time I met you, I distinctly remember that you couldn't even handle a singular Cyberman. What's changed since then?
Oh, a lot of things, retorted Yamcha. I'll be more than happy to demonstrate. He got into his signature stance, and this unnerved the Emperor slightly. What sort of trick was this? Had Yamcha gone mad? Was this Patsy serious or something? Oh well, it was interesting and it might elicit a laugh or two whilst he was toying with these Earthlings. Why not? They began their battle, and sure enough, Yamcha had gotten stronger. But Vegeta was still the better of the two in terms of brute strength. Piccolo had resumed his searching of Vegeta's energy, and Goku was starting to do the same, as Yamcha kept on going. And going. And going. And going.
What was going on? What's your deal? Why have you not tired or showed signs of injury? My power greatly outmatches yours. Explain!
Yamcha laughed. Come on. Don't tell me you don't recognize your own cheat sheet, sire. He pointed to his chest. Here. Aim right here. Krillin and the others yelped in shock. What was he on? Vegeta gladly took the opportunity and fired a finger blast which went straight through Yamcha's torso and out the other side. I mean, sure, it hurt like a mother, but Yamcha bore through the pain, and a few seconds later, he smiled. He felt his cells and organs regenerating, and the hole shrinking. The crowd stopped and stared, Vegeta looking irate.
You're not immortal? Yeah, I am. What's the matter? You scared?
Vegeta gritted his teeth.
A fool's errand! All you've done is stall for time. Stalemate at best. But you're not my only target.
Yamcha then resumed his barrage on Vegeta, and this is when Goku started to realize that things weren't looking so bad. When the fracas had slowed slightly, Goku stepped into Yamcha's side.
It's okay, Yamcha. I got this.
But Goku, he might be holding back. You need me for this.
No need. He's not.
Vegeta couldn't stand being out of the loop.
What in the world are you going on about, Kakarot? What trick are you pulling this time?
No tricks, Vegeta. Just a question. Have you heard of Super Saiyan?
Vegeta pondered his answer carefully, but then smirked.
You're looking at it. Can you not comprehend the sight of the legendary Super Saiyan before you? I know it's a little much for your tiny little minds to come to terms with, but I am the pinnacle of Saiyans past and present. Nobody comes close.
Yamcha looked to Goku, and then back to Vegeta.
Who's going to tell him?
Goku mentioned for him to do so.
About that, Vegeta. You're wrong. You're very wrong.
Vegeta ignored him, so Goku chose to demonstrate by powering up to Super Saiyan. The golden aura exploded into view. His hair perked up and turned just as golden. Goku's energy skyrocketed and eclipsed Vegeta's own. The Emperor was floored.
How is this possible? I am the legendary Super Saiyan, not you!
It is a legend. This is actually something that any Saiyan can achieve when they put their mind to it. Something of which you failed to do. Now, you will pay.
He rushed forward and gut-punched the Emperor. That's for killing me after we helped you. Vegeta recoiled onto the ground. When he looked up, another face met his. Broly's.
Sire, this is a battle you cannot win. Leave this place. I can stay here and ensure that they don't get in your way. Believe me.
Vegeta grimaced and then immediately blasted a hole in Broly's chest, sending everyone into shock.
Nobody tells me what to do!
Broly flew backwards and collapsed, unconscious. Paragus leapt to his son's side and berated Vegeta with profanities aplenty, but the Emperor was not listening. Goku and Yamcha got into position.
Big mistake,
said Yamcha, and the two of them leapt in and took on Vegeta together. But the Emperor was not tiring, as to be expected. But this unnerved Goku. It clearly was that the wish hadn't been made yet. This was bad. Sure, Goku and Yamcha could keep together and keep Vegeta occupied, but there would come a time when their energy would wane and their limit reached. Yamcha couldn't carry them both, Goku would fall back, and that's when Vegeta would pounce on them. And then, whatever it was, it wouldn't be good.
This has gone on long enough. I don't care what power you've come into, Kakarot. It cannot outclass my own immortality. Soon enough, you will falter, and when you do, I will eviscerate you for a second time. And this time, I will enjoy it even more.
Goku wasn't moved. He knew he had the upper hand for the moment. He just had to make use of that and hope that the Namekians would get the wish done soon. The 2 versus 1 thing persisted, but as it was to be expected, Goku began to tire and Yamcha was having to front the charge more and more by the second. Sure, you could just keep going on and on and on, but having a Super Saiyan on your side, a real Super Saiyan, was handy. Soon enough, Vegeta grew weary of this, not out of being tired, but due to the fact that he was getting bored.
Enough! You have made your point. I clearly cannot truly end you the old-fashioned way. If what the Namekian said is true, then I may as well go all the way. Why not?
He walked back to his pod, as if he were just to leave. Not as simple as that, though.
Where are you going?
Shouted Goku.
It's none of your concern. All you need to know is that it will be all over soon,
he said before entering his pod. But something wasn't right. The Zenny dropped, but the gang couldn't stop him. It was too late. The pod rised off the ground and headed skywards, leaving the atmosphere. Inside, the pod was gathering speed, and Vegeta was ready to do what he did to Alia here. He smiled and congratulated its ingenuity.
Nobody need ever know my lapse in judgment. I am still the legendary Super Saiyan.
But before he could pat himself on the back even further, something caught his attention and caused the pod to stop moving in mid-air. That wasn't right. I mean, he hadn't even reached the ionosphere yet. He looked outside and spotted a Saiyan holding the pod in place. Broly. His eyes were white with fury, and his hair sparking with green energy.
Vegeta, I warned you, the creature said through gritted teeth. Broly, cease this fruitless jabbering. Do you seriously wish to perish alongside these vermin? What a waste of your potential.
But Broly didn't respond with words. He shouted some more.
I warned you!
He then started to push harder into the pod, the metal buckling under his palms. I think you know where this is going.
Hug.
Vegeta could see the pod's interior distorting, but he didn't worry. Let the child tire himself out, and then he would sadly have to put him out of his misery. The frame kept on buckling, and he still wasn't panicking. But it was starting to get a little cramped. Then it started to hurt. That was not what was meant to happen. Vegeta was getting a little nervous.
Broly, stop this! I order you to stop!
The pod kept on being squished, and Vegeta was now trapped. He couldn't feel his injuries healing, nor could he focus anymore. The pain was so bad. Why is his immortality failing him? Then it hit him.
Curse you!
He shouted before there was no more room to breathe, and Vegeta's body was crushed completely, and he was no more. Broly then, not able to squish it any further, dropped the oval-shaped pod, and it crashed to the ground in a crater not far away from the group. However, Broly was still mad with ire. But this is when Paragus whipped out his remote control and activated the collar. In an instant, Broly contorted with pain, and after several seconds of this, blacked out. His body crashed to the ground in a heap, but he wasn't that badly injured.
I did not wish to do that, but it was the only way we could be safe. The only way to stop him going mad completely. I'm not proud of it, but when he comes to, he will be alright.
Goku looked seriously at him and at Broly.
We can help you with this. Help you cure Broly of this pain. But only if you trust us. I've got friends and allies that will be more than happy to help. You and your son deserve this.
He offered his hand, and Paragus, after some thinking, took it, and they shook on it. After that, Piccolo looked at the sky and smiled.
Took them long enough. They got the wish done in the nick of time. A few seconds more and then... Ugh.
He trailed off, as everyone else knew exactly what would have happened. In the days that followed, word got back to the Saiyan Empire homeworld that Vegeta had been slain, and much like how Paragus had anticipated, the Empire collapsed. The allegiance to Vegeta was that of just convenience, and now that he had been offed and expunged and no one was really kind of following his own lead, there was no real compulsion to stay here anymore. Those that had left their homes to join his army simply went home. Everyone went back to their lives prior to being drafted and set about their next chapters in life. Vegeta's legacy had simply just dissolved. There was no real glue keeping it in place without him being there. Goku asked Paragus whether he would like to take over as Emperor, but the old man laughed that off.
No, it's better for the remains of Vegeta and Frieza's empire to rot. Yes, there will be those who seek to pick at its carcass, but that has nothing to do with me. I am through with being in charge of armies and men. All I want now is to live with my son in peace. Somewhere where we can just exist how we see fit.
Goku smiled.
Like I said, we're open doors. We can also get your boy calmed down. I've got a guy on Yardrat who can take a look at him.
With that, Goku took Broly to Yardrat to help calm his furrowed brow, and ensure that not only would he regain his faculties entirely, whatever mood he was in, but also that he wouldn't actually need the collar anymore to ensure his control and everyone else's safety. The Empire crumbled beneath its own foundations, and the Dragon Team now had further help in their mission against the androids. However, this is actually where we end things, because it's become perfectly clear that if Vegeta never turned good, it wouldn't end well for him. All thanks to his ruddy hubris and primitive assurances that he was the ultimate Saiyan. He believed in himself too darn much. So what do you folks think? Did you like this story? Do you feel that Vegeta's actions lived up to his archetypal framework? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!